Hey, what's up, everyone? AceOFSpades here, top 10 tank and former contenders player. So, time for another tank guide, and who better yet to do it on than Ramattra. Probably one of the strongest tanks in the current meta since he's came out. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk into it. You know, how you can play him to the best potential, how do you carry, and what his counters are and everything. So, yeah, let's get into the video. All right, so starting it off, let's talk about his passives, his like left click, right now. Um, his left click, little pea shooter, but since it is projectile, it does have no fall off damage. It has no fall off damage. So, little tip for that one: if you see like Widows, scoped in, Ana's scoped in, trying to like heal, it is pretty solid just to try and aim for them, get some free shots on, make them have to like reposition. Um, his next ability is his shield, as you can see. The range on it's pretty far, so you can put it up, shield off teammates if you want. It does have 1,000 health, and the shield duration is pretty low. So if you are going to be using it, the best case is either you're going to want to shield off like enemy heals, so like Ana and stuff like that, or use it to engage. So if you're going to be pushing up, walk up, use it, and that's when you're going to want to take the engage. All right, so an extra tip for his shield is when you use it, it keeps the cooldown going no matter if you're Nemesis form or not. So when you do decide you want to engage, make sure like you pop it up, use your ability, then go into it, because as you can see, it still stays up on the initial engage. So make sure you're always using it every single time you want to engage. There's no reason not to, because by the time you get out of your Nemesis form, then it'll be back up for you to hide till your Nemesis form regenerates, and you can pop it and go back in again. So when you're cycling cooldowns like that, Ramattra is really hard to kill. So make sure you're using them all at the right times, using them as much as possible, and it'll keep your survivability insane and you'll never die. So yeah, make sure you're doing that. All right, so we just showcased it a little bit, but the ability that we're going to start talking about now is his Nemesis form, which is his shift. When you do transform into it, your damage becomes punches, which do tons of damage. You see way more than the tiny little pea shooter that you have, and those shots do go through shields. So any barriers that you see Reinhardt trying to hold up his barrier, Winston bubble, Sigma shield, all of that stuff, it does damage through that and hits multiple targets. So you can hit multiple at once that are hiding behind it. Yeah, so make sure whenever you're gonna start to do an engage, you want to be popping your Nemesis for as much as possible, because it does give you a bunch of armor as well. So it's pretty much just like a extra, I don't know, HP pool you can use to either get out of sticky situations, engage to do the most damage possible as well. And if you do find yourself getting into a sticky situation, you can right click, which is kind of like a big damage reduction, like kind of like Orisa Fortify, Doomfist, when he had his shield negation ability as well. All that stuff is like the same thing, but it only works like how Doomfist was, from incoming damage to the front. So make sure if somebody's trying to get behind you, if it's like 1v1 or just one person that's going to be doing the most damage, let's say it's like the DPS rather than like an Ana or something in the back, make sure you are facing them at all times. So if they're moving, make sure you're following this while you're cutting back. His block doesn't block Ana sleeps, Roadhog hooks, stuff like that. So make sure you're paying attention to those type of abilities, since those are the ones that counter Ramattra the most. All right, so I love giving the little bonus tips here and there throughout the video. So the first one will be for his Nemesis form, his shift. This is probably one of the most OP things that Ramattra can do. I don't know if it's like a bug or not, but when you are in Sigma ult, you just look straight up in the air when you're about to land. Wow. And it counts as you negating that damage. So whether or not this will be patched, I don't know. It's been in since Ramattra came out. So yeah, make sure you're doing this as much as possible if you ever are in the Sigma ult, till who knows if it gets patched, if it doesn't, if it's intended. Yeah, have fun with it, guys. All right, so now moving on to his next ability, his E. It is a big AoE circle that does damage to everyone that is in the middle of it and stops them from climbing, moving, like vertical. So if you put this on like a Pharah, she's not going to be able to get out of it, fly away from it. If you put it right before like a ledge and Genji's trying to wall climb, it's going to just look like he has broken legs. Needs a wheelchair because he's just going to just be going up and getting sucked right back down. You can put it on ledges like right before like steps and stuff. Like let's say there's like a box here. People will try and like, oh, this would have been a better example. But people try and like, would jump to get up here normally. Wouldn't be able to. So use as much as possible. You can use it to, chain down, BAPs.
You're going to
just talked about earlier. Or just doing it on like a tank that put themselves into a bad position and, is trying to walk away, jump out from a high ground, but now they can't. So yeah, just those little things to look out for when you're using this. All right, so now that we went over his, left, right click, shift, and his E, the best combo to that when you're engaging. So let's say you're starting off the fight. You always want to be starting off the fight, on corners, spamming out, stuff like that. But once the fight starts, you're going to want to, throw your E onto one of the targets, put the shield up, and then go in for the damage. And this is going to be able to maximize the amount possible while starting all your cooldowns, starting to cycle them. So now when if a Nemesis Former is about to get out, you would just play it back to a corner, use your shield, shield dance as much as possible, wait for Nemesis Form to come back up, and then re-engage off of that. If you're still alive, or hopefully still alive, Ramattra shouldn't be dying first at any point in time in this Overwatch. But yeah, so that's like the best way you'd want to, look for an engage. And you probably want to using your E onto supports when you are going to start the engage. Look for those, squishy targets. You're not really going to be killing a tank that much in Overwatch 2. So if you find one of the DPS supports out of position, that's who you want to be focusing, shooting, not the tanks. Because you can do that as like neutral fights, just spam shoot the tanks. But you should be looking to kill the squishies in Overwatch 2. So make sure you're looking for that. Okay, so it wouldn't be Ramattra without his broken ultimate. Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about that. So his ultimate puts him into Nemesis form and starts an AoE, chain. It can hit multiple people at once. And it just constantly does damage to them. And as long as you are in range of somebody, that time ticker does not tick down. So as you can see, 3 seconds. If I get out of range, then it will start ticking down. Oh, I have to kill these first. Oops, there you go. See, 2, 1. And then once you get back in range, so it doesn't recharge. So make sure, you're always trying to stay within range as much as possible, because it does not, recharge back up to 3 seconds, but so it can still end. Yeah, so make sure you're always pushing forward, looking to get on targets, keep them in distance. And you can be using your shift while you're in the ulti form as well. So let's just say you're, on top of a Reinhardt, you can just hold right click. Your form's going to be staying forever till you get full health, and then start battling it out again. That's why you see those, funny memes with, two Ramattras that are just looking at each other, holding right click, going up and down, because it lasts forever. But yeah, so you find yourself in a sticky situation when you're ulting, make sure, you just hold right click, ask for heals, and then go back into punching again, since all while it is still going to continue doing damage. So you don't need to force yourself to sit there and try and max amount the amount of damage possible, and then you get yourself killed when you could have easily just survived. So another Ramattra tip, since we already just talked about his ultimate. A lot of Ramattras that I see, they start with their Nemesis form, and then they're doing the damage, and then they pop their ultimate while they're still in Nemesis form here. And that's not something you want to do, because when you get back into Nemesis form, it recharges all that extra armor that it just gave you. So if you're not doing that and you just pop it while you're still in Nemesis form, then it doesn't regen it. It just starts the AoE like ticking down. So one of the tips for Ramattra to maximize the amount of health possible is that you're going to want to start in Nemesis form, punching, and then you're going to want to cancel it, or right when it ends, then you can pop your ultimate. So until you start an engage, bang, you get melted down, real quick. You can exit escape and then pop out with your ultimate form right away again, and then it will recharge that amount of shield or armor health that it gives you, and then you're good to go in that fight, you know, back to, you know, half HP, max HP, you know, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so that's the way you'd want to use it. You don't want to use them both at the same time without canceling the Nemesis form first and then starting your ultimate form right afterwards. All right, I did forget to point out something in the Nemesis form. It is kind of self-explanatory and you kind of can see it in gameplay, but just to cover all the bases, when you are in your Nemesis form and your ultimate, you do move faster. So, you know, if somebody's trying to get away, you can usually catch up to most characters now. Or there's some certain spots on maps where, you know, you wouldn't be able to get to before, but now since you have the extra speed, you know, you can jump from like a railing to a railing or onto something a lot easier than normal. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You can use that to catch up to people and, you know, destroy them pretty easily. Oh, and there's one more. I just keep forgetting all this stuff. Nemesis form, the punches, there is no headshot damage. So you just want to just aim for the body. Make sure you're going to be hitting the target as much as possible. There's no need to try and, you know, go for a headshot or something like that when you're in the form and have a chance of them, like, you know, ducking, missing. So one of these things, just, you know, aim for the body. That no matter what, if they jump, you hit their toes. They duck, you're going to hit them in the head. No matter what, you want to be able to just maximize getting the most amount of damage possible. So aim for the body and you'll hit it every time. And then, you know, that's when everybody just dies super easily with you. All right, so now moving on to counters. Who are the biggest counters to Ramattra? Well, Ana, probably one of the biggest counters to Ramattra. You have to be watching out for her sleep, because let's just say, you know, she's ult tracking, she knows you have ult, right when you pop it, then you're going to be bigger character model already, and you're going to be an easy sleep target. Something that she's probably going to be saving it for. And, you know, it's the worst feeling when you pop your ultimate, you're like, yes, dude, I'm going to dominate everybody. And then, you know, you go take a nap, and for the whole duration, your ultimate's gone because you're not targeting anybody. And yeah, complete waste. So make sure when you're playing Ramattra, watch out for Ana sleeps, or keep track of when she uses it, and then pop your ultimate afterwards. So ability, you know, cooldown usage and watching other characters is something you'd want to be paying attention as a main tank to know when you can engage. So that's something to look out for. Same with Roadhog. Roadhog's one of the bigger counters to Ramattra. He just got nerfed. So, I mean, you probably won't see as many Roadhogs anymore since he doesn't have the one-shot potential for squishies. But, you know, if you ever find yourself facing a Roadhog, then be careful for his Whole Hog, because Whole Hog's not really the greatest ability, but it's really good for countering Ramattra ults, because it'll just keep you far away as much as possible, and then it's completely useless. As well as like in the neutral fights, Hog can heal himself and do pretty good amount of damage with his scrap gun. So yeah, Hog is probably one of the biggest tank counters to him. Ana is the biggest healer counter, and look out for if you're playing Ramattra into Echo as well, since one, Echo's a lot harder to hit with Ramattra. That's not really your job to be killing Echo anyways, but the thing that makes Echo really strong into Ramattra for like on a team basis is that Echo can copy Ramattra, and unlike Echo normally, when she copies like a tank, she's like half the health and you can just kill her instantly. With Ramattra, not sure if it's a bug or not, if it's ever going to get fixed, but when she copies Ramattra and then Ramattra uses the Nemesis form, he pretty goes to full HP. It doesn't go down to like, you know, like the half or whatever. So now you're max HP as Ramattra, fully beefed, impossible to kill, and then you get your ultimate in like one punch, and then it's, you know, easy pickings from there on, and then you're kind of just dominated from your team. So if there's another Echo on the enemy team, maybe consider swapping if you want. If not, if you're playing it, then, you know, just look out for that. Know that's going to happen. And it's going to be a lot harder to, you know, deal with 2 Ramattras, 3 Ramattras, all of them on the field, popping their ultimates, full on visual clutter, and all that goodness. So yeah, those are, I'd say, like the 3 biggest counters to Ramattra. So look out for those. And yeah, there you go. Okay, so positioning for Ramattra. In every single Ramattra match, you probably are going to be deadlifting the team. He's one of the strongest tanks, does a lot of damage. If you use him correctly, you're going to be wiping the floor with everybody. So the best place or play style you'd want to be is kind of like how you'd be playing Reinhardt and other type of brawler tanks. You want to play relatively close to the battle. You don't want to be playing out in the open, since you don't really have a shield, the shield is going to be lasting for, you know, was it 5 seconds or something. Very short duration. You only want to be using that when you want to look for an engage. So make sure you're playing corners, make sure you're using the boxes, and then, you know, slowly take the space. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, now look, you see, you know, on the back, bam, you're going to put up the shield to go forward, slow him down, chase him, and then there you go. You're going to start your engage that way. Always be paying attention to where the corners are on the maps. Don't really want to get yourself found out in the open when all your nemesis form and everything is down, because then you're just going to be sitting duck, and that's when Ramattras do tend to get killed, is when all their abilities are down and then they're just out in the open because they didn't look at how much time they have left on the duration. So make sure you're paying attention to the duration so then you can get to a spot safely and then wait for cooldowns, then re-engage again. So as long as you know, talk about it again, cycle the cooldowns all the time. This will make Ramattra super hard to kill and set you apart from, you know, maybe a new Ramattra player, and then, you know, one of the top tier ones, get you into top 500 rank pretty easily. All right, so map picks that Ramattra is good with. He's pretty much good on every single map. You can probably get away with using him because he's that strong right now. The only thing you have to be wary for is maps like Dorado, Watch Point Gibraltar, New Bonnie, if it ever, you know, comes back. And those high grounds, Ramattra doesn't really have anything to really contest that. So make sure once you take the space, take a point. Let's say you get to Dorado second, or even on Dorado first, you want to be like, you know, Dorado first, that example first, you want to be going like, you know, left side, take the high ground up the steps and control that, force them off. And then you can, you know, go forward. And as well as, you know, Dorado second, instead of just taking the fight on the left side where they're going to have, you know, the awning above and always getting shot from the below. You can't really do much. Go, you know, right side, think about positioning, pathing that can get you to the high ground, you know, go up there, force them off, and then have one person be pushing cart. So those are the things that you can do to help Ramattra's one weakness, which is, you know, his vertical mobility. He doesn't have jumps, leaps. You know, Winston Diva can fly, get high grounds pretty easily. He doesn't have that. So make sure you're always looking for pathing that can get you to those positions and where you can take a team fight, win that, and then, you know, push the objective, and you'll be better off that way. All right. I think that about wraps up everything you need to know about Ramattra, all the ins, outs. Now you're ready to dominate your ranked games. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new, and yeah, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, like, comments. Who knows how to get into the YouTube algorithm, but yeah, all that stuff helps for you guys. And till next week, peace.